Hello and welcome. I am Kalila, the Outreach and Public Relations Coordinator with Moms in Motion and At Home Your Way, and we're so excited to have you here today. Just a few housekeeping items in an effort to limit our distractions so that we all get the information that we are here for today. Please be sure to mute your phone. And also, as much as I love to see all of our fabulous friends that we have on today, we do not need you to share your camera. With that being said, I would like to introduce you to our guest today. We have our Director of Talent Development and Change Management, Lauren Sherwood. Lauren?
All right, well, welcome everybody. We wanted to take some time to meet with you all to go over some of the ever-changing guidelines during COVID and some of the plans for moving forward this year. We know that there have been a lot of questions as things have changed and changed again. And we wanted to go over some of the updates, and then we will have time at the end for you all to ask any additional questions that we don't address. So if you have other questions, if you'll just hold on to them, and then we will go over those when we're done with the questions that we already have submitted. So I wanted to start out, the first thing that I wanted to share with you all, and you probably have already seen some communication about this, and it is that for the first time, something very exciting is that they are offering overtime for attendance. And there are a couple stipulations around this. It is eligible for non-live-in attendants are eligible for overtime, which is time and a half of their normal pay rate, for a max of 8 hours per week. And so that is something that previously they have not been eligible for, and that is a new thing, and that started January 1st. That's new for this year. And DMAS is finalizing a Medicaid memo with those rates. But we have received word that they are expected to be $19.17 for Northern Virginia and then $14.81 for the rest of the state. So that is definitely a new thing for 2021 that we're excited to be able to share with you all. If you are a live-in attendant, you are not eligible for this overtime rate because you've already been able to work more than 40 hours in the past. The other thing that we've sent out some communication about, and you guys have probably seen this from your various fiscal agents, is that live-in attendants are exempt from EVV. So EVV is that electronic visit verification, and that's something that people have to complete when they're providing attendant care services, and they have to use the different apps. So each fiscal agent has their app that they use for that EVV, and they have announced that live-in attendants do not have to use that app. They can actually enter time via the portal, or they can use the EVV mobile app if they want to, or IVR. And so what they're going to do is they are going to verify that live-in attendants do truly live in the home, and they are going to do that. We are waiting on guidance from each fiscal agent about exactly how they're going to complete that verification, but they're going to do that by June 30th of this year and have attendants provide that proof of address so that they can verify that you are a live-in attendant. That's something they've always required, is for you to prove your live-in status. And that's something that we are not going to be able to handle. That's something that fiscal agents will have to handle. So check their web pages. They're really good about providing those updates to you all. So check the web pages for your fiscal agents, and they should be providing updates about how they are going to complete those verifications. All right, so the big one everybody wants to talk about right now. So the COVID flexibilities have been extended. As of right now, parents and spouses can continue to be paid as attendants through March 11th of this year. So that was something that it was scheduled to end in January, and it's been extended to March 11th. And we can also continue to conduct our monthly visits virtually. So that's something that we've been able to do so that we can still see you guys, see your faces, do our visit with you without having to risk any exchange of germs or potential germs there. And so that is something that we will continue to do through that March 11th date. There have been a lot of questions about, well, the numbers are still rising. Things aren't looking necessarily as good as we'd hope they would by this point. So why only extend through March 11th? And the reason for that is the guidance that's currently in place is the state only has the power to basically extend it up to a year past when the emergency started. Typically, emergencies don't last a lot longer than that. And so we're in a little bit of unprecedented territory here, and the states are waiting on additional guidance from the federal government, which we anticipate will be forthcoming here in the next several weeks. And if we hear of any extension, we will let you all know right away as to what that will look like. So that's kind of the status of that right now. But at least until March 11th, if you are a parent or a spouse of an individual receiving waiver services, you can continue to be paid as an attendant through that time, and then we will continue to visit with you all virtually. Hazard pay has also been a big question we've seen a lot lately. So at the end of last year, there was some communication sent out that attendants that worked between March and June of last year would be eligible for a hazard pay payment, and that would be made sometime after January 1st. And we didn't know exactly when that would go out, and that's what several of you all were asking about. And so what we have found out just within the past week or so is that hazard pay will be issued by the fiscal agents starting the week of January 11th, which is this week, and it will be distributed according to the pay schedule of that corresponding fiscal agent. So they all have different pay schedules, so you'll check to see when the next pay date is. PPL did announce that they're going to distribute their hazard pay this Friday, January the 15th, so you can look for it then. It is taxable income, and there's nothing that you need to do to receive the hazard pay. So anybody that filed a timesheet during that time and was eligible will automatically receive the hazard pay distributed to them if they qualified. All right, MCO open enrollment just ended in December, and I know there were several of you all that were switching which MCO that you had. And if you have done that, we want to make sure that you are aware if you switched fiscal agents when you switched MCOs, you could go ahead and complete that paperwork so that you can go ahead and get established with the new fiscal agent and your attendant can start to get paid again. You want to do that as soon as possible because it takes some time to process all the paperwork, and that way you can get it in and we can get you back up and running as quickly as possible with as little interruption as we can. Visit that fiscal agent website, or you can ask your facilitator for more information on transitioning that paperwork over. Definitely check that out. The fiscal agent websites also have some good videos of how to fill out the different pieces of paperwork, which can be very helpful as well. And if you're wondering which MCO goes with which fiscal agent, we've got a little diagram here that helps explain that. So those of you all that are with Magellan, you are using Access as your fiscal agent. For those of you that are with United, Anthem, or Optima, you use PPL. And then Virginia Premier uses CDCN. And Aetna is offering people a choice between PPL or CDCN. So you might, if you're with Aetna, you might use either one of those. But definitely check out their websites. They've got all the paperwork on there, and they've got really good instructions on how to complete it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask your service facilitator, and they can help you with that. Aetna did decide that beginning January 1st, they were offering consumer directed services would have a choice of either CDCN or PPL, as we just discussed. And so that is something that's new there. So existing members that are already enrolled with either PPL or CDCN will remain with your fiscal agent, so you don't need to switch anything. But going forward, anybody new to Aetna will have a choice. All right, that was all of the pre-submitted questions that we had. I'm going to check to see here in the chat about any questions. So it looks like someone asked, is the hazard pay done direct deposit? If you have direct deposit set up with your fiscal agent and that's how you normally get your paychecks, it should be. And you can always reach out to your fiscal agent to verify your payment method there. We have not heard otherwise. What other questions do you guys have? Someone asked, is it too late to put in retroactive hours to get hazard pay? Unfortunately, there was a cutoff date last fall that you had to have the hours in by. So yes, at this time it is too late. You guys have any other questions? Someone asked, what happens if your timesheets are still pending? I'm guessing you mean from that time frame that was eligible. I would definitely reach out to your fiscal agent as soon as possible to see if you can get those resolved. Unfortunately, we're not able to do anything on our end about pending timesheets. You'll have to work directly with PPL, CDCN, or Access, depending on who you have. Great questions. What other questions do you guys have? Someone asked, from talking to clients, have you noticed if they have returned to day support? Some individuals have, and some individuals have chosen not to at this point. It's kind of broad across the spectrum there. Someone asked, when will hazard pay be paid out? So for PPL, it will be this Friday, and the other fiscal agents haven't said exactly when yet, but the state did let us know that the payments would begin to go out the week of January 11th, which is this week. So you should see those payments very soon. Someone asked if the overtime rule was permanent, and it is at this point. It's not tied to those COVID flexibilities. So it's an actual change instituted due to that General Assembly action and funding. What other questions do you guys have? My hours were submitted for that time period, so that means it is automatic, correct? I don't need to do anything. That is correct. We have been told it's an automatic process. If you submitted hours during those months, you are eligible for the hazard pay, and that includes parents that were serving as attendants during that time. And so you should see that payment automatically. Is Consumer Direct the same as PPL as far as fiscal agent? Wondering about the hazard pay timeframe. I have Consumer Direct. So Consumer Direct and PPL, they're two different companies, but they do function the same way. They provide the same services to EORs and to attendants as the other one does. So they serve the same purpose, and they just might their portal looks a little different. Their paperwork might be a little different, but they serve the same function. And so that hazard pay time frame, that was a state thing. So that's not dependent on which fiscal agent you have. All of them are going to provide that hazard pay during that time frame. See. What if you don't work for the same company now? How will you get the hazard pay? If you were serving as an attendant during that time, you will still get that hazard pay. They have your direct deposit info on file, or they can send you a check if that's what they normally do. So we've been told that piece of it, if you still work for them or not, is not relevant. You still served during that time that was considered hazardous, and so they are going to issue those payments. Great questions. Let's see. Somebody asked me, what if a client's discharged from day support? What does that mean? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. They would have to have services reauthorized if they wanted to return to day support, if that's what you're asking. So it just means that service approval's been ended, and they would need to ask their support coordinator to resubmit for authorization if they would like to return to day support. Yep, you're welcome. Someone said, if the live-in attendant is working with PPL, are they exempt from EBV too? Yes, live-in attendants are exempt from EBV. They can still choose to use the EBV if that's easier. If they're already using it and they want to continue, that's fine, but it's not a requirement. Do you anticipate the March 11th date to be extended? We sure hope so. We do anticipate that probably, but we can't guarantee anything. It's not up to us. We certainly encourage you all to advocate for that. So reach out to people to see your legislators. You can visit our website for more information about who you can contact. But also, we do want to bear in mind that it's not up to the state right now. They're waiting on guidance from the federal government. And so as soon as they get that, they'll know how they can proceed. But we always encourage you to voice your concerns to the people that make the rules, so that they can keep your best interest in mind. So definitely reach out to your legislators, let them know if that is something that your family would benefit from having extended. Definitely advocate for that. But we are hoping, cautiously optimistic, that it will be extended. My son's oh, somebody's not muted, I don't think. All right. Someone said, my son's attendant care hours have not been authorized for this year. With the pay period ending on Friday, any other solutions other than using respite hours? I really don't want to use respite hours. Yes, if you don't have any attendant care hours authorized, your only choice would be to use the respite hours. Or you could wait, and if the attendant care hours are approved and the start date is backdated, you might be able to submit it later. That would be the only other choice. Let's see. What is the new option choice when submitting time mean? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you be more specific? Is there any special ruling to allow single parents of adult consumers or minors to be the attendant if they are only available, if they're the only available EOR? Unfortunately, the EOR and the attendant have to be two different individuals. They can't be the same. You can't be both the employer and the employee. And we know that single parents in particular are impacted by this. And unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do about that. You just can't be both roles. We encourage you to try to work with friends or family if there's anyone else that can be the EOR, but at this point you can't be both. Let's see. So The new option choice when submitting time, if you are a live-in attendant, you are exempt from EBV. So that means you actually have a lot of options. You can either use the EBV mobile method to submit your time, or you can log into the portal and submit it either way. So they have previously said that attendants have to use EBV if at all possible. And so now what they're saying is if you are a live-in attendant, you don't have to use that EBV method. You have the option of that or the portal or even IVR. So you've got several options to submit it. But if you've been submitting time and whatever method is working for you, I would just stick with that. Let's see. And make sure you check out our advocacy page on our website. It's momsinmotion.net. And then under resources and self-advocacy, you can see who your legislator is for your area so that you know who to reach out to if you're advocating for the extension of that March deadline or anything else. Is a live-in attendant working with PPL exempt from EBV2? Yes, all live-in attendants are, regardless of which fiscal agent. Trying to make sure. I think I got them all. Let's see. Oh, no, there's one more. When a time is sent and minutes ran over allowed, does the time get paid up to the limit or is it thrown out? Example, 37 hours used already. Last time was in 4 hours. Maximum is 40. Therefore, it's the 4 hours paid for 3 or none. Okay, so if you are almost at your limit and you submit and it's going to go over, they're going to reject anything over that limit. And they will let the EOR know that the time submitted goes over what's allotted. And then they won't pay out for that. So they'll pay up to the limit. Okay, I think I got them all. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay, someone said, how can we see how many respite hours we have left to use? That's an excellent question. So it actually varies by the fiscal agent. So the best thing I can do for you on this group thing is to tell you to reach out to your service facilitator and ask them that question, and they can show you exactly how it would work with it, whether you have CDCN or PPL or access, and they can go over that with you. But it's pretty straightforward with either one, but it's really different. So I don't want to lead you the wrong direction. So reach out to your service facilitator. They can help you calculate that. To improve a ramp, can I use environmental modification? You can certainly submit an environmental modification request, yes. What other questions do you guys have? For a live-in attendant, can you use the portal if proof of address hasn't been submitted yet? I believe you can at this point because I don't think the fiscal agents have given the exact guidance on how they want the proof of address, and you have until June 30th to submit that anyway. So I think at this point you can. Someone asked, you still use the Time for Care app to put in? So that is one of the EBV methods for one of the fiscal agents. And then there are other ones for other fiscal agents. So it depends on which one you have. But it is one of the options, yes. Great questions. If client has a DD waiver, could I use Ability Unlimited to submit paperwork? Absolutely. We highly recommend that you reach out to Ability Unlimited. You can check out their website. It's abilityunlimited.net, and they can help you with assistive technology, environmental modifications, or durable medical equipment requests. What other questions you guys have? Yes, Also, our live event next month, I think it's February 17th, maybe. It will feature Ability Unlimited. So if you are curious about environmental mods, assistive technology, or durable medical equipment, definitely mark your calendar. Watch our Facebook page because we try to advertise these things ahead of time. But it is at noon on February the 17th, and they'll be sharing a lot more information, Ability Unlimited related there. So definitely mark your calendar and plan to attend for that. What other questions do you guys have? Someone asked if attendant hours are able to be used during school hours. That is a really loaded question. So if you're talking about attending school in the building and going to school like we traditionally think of, it depends on what service line you have attendant hours through. So you're going to need to talk with your service facilitator about specifics. If you're talking about virtual school at home right now, if you need an attendant during that time, you can use that time. What other questions do you guys have? We've got about 5 minutes left, so we've got time for some more if you guys have more. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, we'll wrap up then. We appreciate you all taking the time to join us. You can always reach out to your service facilitator when they do your visit, or if you have their contact info and you have questions in between, please reach out to them, and they're always happy to answer your questions. You could send us a message on Facebook, and we're happy to get back to you. Thank you all.